Hello, happy hikers. I'm Shayna with the Happy Hiker blog, and today we're going to be talking about how to hammock camp on the Trans Catalina Trail. Now, last month I decided to hike the Trans Catalina Trail, and a lot of people told me hammock camping was just not possible. And being the stubborn person I am, I decided, well, we are going to hammock camp it then. I looked at a lot of photos and videos beforehand, but there isn't really a lot out there. And so I was still kind of not sure if this was going to happen. And I did bring a ground setup option just in case, actually just practicing how to set up my hammock on the ground with a tarp. So I did have that option, but happy to say it is possible to hammock camp on the Trans Catalina Trail. It's not only possible, but it's actually pretty easy. I did take a lot of pictures while I was there, and that's what I'm here to show you is which campsites to pick, which campsites not to pick, and you decide for yourself looking at the photos which ones might work best for you. For those of you that don't know a lot about the Trans Catalina Trail, although I'm sure you do because you're looking up this video, the Trans Catalina Trail is a trail located on the Santa Catalina Island, just off the coast of Long Beach in California. Its total length is 38.5 miles, although you can add on with one extra section, which I did, which is the hike up here at the westernmost terminus that goes over to Starlight Beach. Now, the trail did originally include this part of the hike, but it was changed and no longer includes it. But you can add it back on, which adds another approximately 10 miles. So I ended up staying in Parsons Landing 2 nights in order to add that section on. The highest elevation is 1,175 feet. And it's definitely a lot of up and down. You can kind of see it on this graph right here. Your first day is all up. And then after that, you're typically going to head up and down in order to get in and out of your camps, which are typically located on the beach coastal line. So you'll hike down to the beach and then you'll hike right back up. So a lot of up and down on this particular trail, and for the most part, not a lot of switchbacks. It's just straight up and straight down. Wildlife on the island, you'll typically see bison, Catalina fox, bald eagles, rattlesnakes. I only saw bison and Catalina fox, and I only saw 2 of each, although it could vary depending on the season, and I was there in the winter, which I think is the best time of the year to go as far as weather for hiking and camping. It was really nice, and actually super late winter, almost spring. I went in February. So camping is on designated campsites only, and so that's what I'm going to go over today, although they do have a couple other campsites I won't have. There are some kayak and, campsites that are located on the section right here. And I think there are a couple other more private campsites around the island as well. Water is available at each campsite, so super easy as far as water. You don't have to carry a lot except for what you're going to need on the trail that day. And even a few spots have it in the middle of the hike, especially the first day, which is your longest hike, almost 11 miles. And it has some water at the halfway point at where I had my lunch break. You also have water at the airport, which is what I want to bring up with food. You can get food in Avalon when you start, unless you're going in the opposite direction. But how I started was in Avalon, and that's typically how you would hike the trail. And you also have food at the airport, which is in the middle of the island. And then, actually, it's right there. And then you have food at Two Harbors, which is closer to the end of the trail. So your trail starts in Avalon. It's going to hike up, 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 and then you're going to stop at Blackjack Campground. You're going to cruise along the mountains here, and then you're going to go down, down, down into Little Harbor, and you're going to go back up, up, up into the mountains again, and then down into Two Harbors. And then you're going to go up, up, up again, and back down into Parsons Landing. I stayed in Parsons Landing 2 nights, and then traveled around and did the Starlight Beach hike. And then the next day, I did the super easy hike all the way back to Two Harbors in order to take my ferry back home. So you access this by ferry, or there's helicopter rides also. So anyway, that's not why you guys are here. You can get all this information on other sites, but what I do want to talk about is hammock camping, because that is not listed anywhere. And, oops, sorry. We're going to start off with Hermit Gulch. Hermit Gulch I did not stay at. This campsite is located in Avalon, and I believe they actually closed down this campsite while I was there in the winter in order for people to stay in the hotels. They did say all of the sites were booked. Yeah, I saw nobody there. So what I think they did was wanted people to stay at the hotels during the slow season. But since I was passing on by, I did check out all the sites just so I could let you know where I would stay if I was hammock camping, which I'll probably stay there again some other time. So off to the left, you'll see all the possible hammock campsites. Not all are perfect, but definitely possible. But I'll show you some pictures of all these sites, and you be the judge of what would work best for you. You can stay on site 3, 4, 5, 8, 19, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 34, 35, 37, 38, 42, and the tent cabins. And I'm going to show you each of those sites and kind of show you what they would look like if you were hammock camping and what I would do. Just to show you some sites on the map, this is the main road here, and I've heard it gets a little bit noisy. So they recommend that you camp as far away from that road as possible, which I do have some sites on my list that are in the back section. Bathrooms, there's one over here off to the left, one in the center, so if that's important to you. There's also a main fire area, but for some reason there's also a sign next to it that says no fires. So I don't know what that's about. But anyway. Let's check out each site, and I'll show you a couple more details. Oh, and then this is the trail that goes up to the Trans Catalina Trail right here. You'll come from Avalon, which is down here off to the right. So, first section, tent cabins. You're probably not going to be staying in the tent cabins if you're getting a hammock, but if you had maybe a half and half bunch, some wanted to stay in here, some wanted to stay in a hammock, you could probably hang a hammock diagonally here. It would be a little bit tight, but I think it would be possible. I did not go inside these though, because at the time I thought they were all booked. So I didn't get to see if it was possible to hang inside off the frame. Looking at some other tent cabins at Two Harbors, I would say no, just for stability reasons, but that might be a possibility also. Plus there's trees out here. You might be able to swing half and half and get a longer span, which would be better. So anyway, tent cabins are a possibility. Next up is Site 3. This one has 2 really good sized trees. They look really strong, a really good distance. It's technically kind of in between 3 and 4, so you might be able to use it with either site. It is along the main road though, so that is the downfall of this one. Next up, 4 and 5, just right next to it. So this one has a good spans for 5 and then a good spans for 4. These are pretty long distances, so if you're going to be staying on these, I would bring a longer strap system so that you can make these longer spanses, but really good sized trees. Site 8, this is my favorite campsite at Hermit Gulch. It is perfect. 3 trees, you can get a couple hammocks here, a good distance. It's far away from the road. Definitely, if I stay at Hermit Gulch in the future, this is where I will be staying. But if I can't get Site 8, Site 19 would be my second choice. It is a shade structure, the only shade structure at Hermit Gulch, and shade structures are super easy to hang off of, and you don't have to worry about cutting into the trees or if they are strong enough or just the right distance. You can get quite a few hammocks off of here depending on what angles you string them up. I, was just solo backpacking, so I would just probably take the center hang, which is the easiest. If you can move this table underneath, that's even better, because then you will have somewhere to set your things and step off onto, because you're probably going to be pretty far off the ground when you hang. But anyway, 19, another really great site. 23 has 2 trees right here. They're not the widest around, but just enough that I think it would be a good spanse. They're also a little bit close, so you're probably going to have a pretty tight hang right here, but it is possible. Also on the back half, so nice for low noise. 24, sorry, it's a bad photo and also not the best of the hang locations, but there is a cluster of trees back here that would be possible to hang from. Not the strongest, so I wouldn't suggest anybody on the larger side probably hanging off of these, but if you're smaller, they might work. I would go for some of the other sites as a first choice, but if I had to, I would maybe pick this cluster of trees, which is also close to a few other sites, so I'll show pictures of these trees from different angles in a bit. But this one's Site 24. Site 25 has 2 trees right here, one here, and then this back one here. You also have a tree over here, which might be good for a long span, but originally looking at it, I was kind of looking at this one here. So an option. It's not the best option like a few of the others, but possible. 26. This one has 2 really good trees, a decent spanse. It's kind of long, but not super long. The bad part is that this food storage box is right in the center of the 2 trees. So you're probably going to be leaning up against this box when you're in your hammock. Oops, shoot. Sorry, let me go back to that one. But if that doesn't bother you, I mean, it's great to set your cup of coffee or breakfast in the morning while you're sitting in your hammock, so that's nice. But anyway, 2 really good trees. I wouldn't mind setting up in this location. 27. This one has a couple of trees in close proximity. Not the best trees, especially this one in the middle, but I definitely would say it is a possibility. 28 has a couple trees here as well. I'm mostly looking at this one just behind and this one over here. It's a little bit longer spanse, but nothing too extreme. I would say this is a pretty good location. 34 is on the back side. This actually shows the Trans Catalina Trail running right behind here. So you'll probably get a little bit of foot traffic back here, but it still seemed kind of hidden away back behind the bathrooms. Another plus if you need to be close by the bathrooms. This tree is really wide, so you're going to need a really long tree strap for this one. And then this tree is not the best, but it felt pretty secure when I was testing it. So not the best hanging location, but definitely possible. 35. This one has quite a few trees around here as well. This tree is a little bit on the skimpy side, but you do have quite a few other trees to choose from. Pick your best one. If you're going for this one, here in the back, and then the one in the middle, you might need longer straps, but definitely quite a few options. 37 is showing the cluster of trees nearby, so 37 is close to this cluster as well. This gives you a little bit better view of that cluster that was close by 24, I think it was. And then 38 is also close by the cluster of trees. So quite a few sites close by this cluster. That would give you an option of hanging in the middle of it. 42 is our last site at Hermit Gulch, and it is a large group site. If you have a lot of you coming to hike this trail, you might want to stay at this one. A lot of the other campsites are pretty small, so this is going to be your best bet for a lot of people, especially if you have tent people and hammock people, but you have a lot of trees to choose from. So you could probably get at least 3 people in this site, if not a few more. Okay, so that is Hermit Gulch. We're now going to move on to Blackjack, which is the first campsite that I stayed at since I did not stay at Hermit Gulch. Blackjack is in the middle of the island. It's after your longest hike, and it has a total of 10 campsites. This one does book up pretty quickly because there are only 10 campsites, but they're really good size campsites. You can hike at 6 of the 10, or you can hammock camp at 6 of the 10 at site 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10. And I'm just going to go over a little bit of the details, but this is where you would hike in, off to the far left, bottom left corner. And then you would hike out off to the bottom right. Bathrooms are in the center right here, so you can kind of see what's close to that. Site 1, 2, 3 are off on their own, and then the rest of them kind of center around this main section. 9 is also kind of off by itself, but that was actually my site, and I didn't feel like it was extremely far off. But 1, 2, and 3 are far off from the rest and drop down off to a different level. So let's look in a little bit more detail on the sites that you can hammock camp. Number 1, this is my favorite campsite at Blackjack. This is the site I was supposed to have, but I had to change my itinerary and I ended up losing this site. So it is off on its own. Like I said, it is well shaded. I would hang from this tree to this tree, which is a really nice shaded corner. I do feel, although I didn't take a picture of it, that you could also hang off to the right from the other side of this tree to another tree over there. I can't remember for sure, so don't hold me to that, but you definitely have at least one hang site right here. 2 and 3 are not possible in my eyes, so I skipped off of those ones, and we're going to go over to 4, which is great if you have more than one person. There's a little cluster of trees over here, and I feel you could fit at least 3 people over here. Definitely want to bring some longer straps if you're going to do that. This is a social butterfly site, and the reason why I say that is close to the bathrooms, it's close to the water spigot, it's close to the trail. Everybody walks past this site, so if that bothers you, then I wouldn't pick it. But it's a really great hang site with a lot of great shade. 5 is obviously right next to 4. But it does have its own little alcove here, which is a cute little spot to hang a hammock. You might be able to get 2 if you work off of this pole right here and still use both of them anchored on the other side with this. But it is a nice little site, definitely great for hammock camping. 7 and 8. Now, technically, the hammock hanging site is in between 7 and 8, so not really a part of either one. And this is where I hung. This is my system right here with my Superior Gear hammock and my War Bonnet mini fly. I talked with both of these sites and asked them if it would be okay if I hung off the trees in the middle of them, because the site that I picked, 9, is not possible to hammock camp unless I just went off into the trees, way off the campsite, which I guess I could have done. But anyways, these 2 palm trees are really wide, so you're definitely going to want some really long tree straps. My tree straps only went halfway around the tree, so I felt kind of bad. I normally am a little bit more leave no trace than that, and after thinking about it, I probably should have stuck some sticks under there so it didn't compress the tree. But anyways, so think of longer tree straps if you're going to take up this option. This one's great for 2 though. The first section is closer to site 7, and the second section that I'm on is closer to site 8. This back section is a little bit more hidden away, and so that's why I picked it. But anyway, great site. Site 10, this is another really good site. It's the only shade structure at Blackjack, and you can fit several people on one of these shade structures. You also have 2 trees right behind it, which can fit another hammock. So this one could fit a lot of people. It's a really good location. Definitely one of my top sites, although number 1 is still my ultimate top site. So that's it. That's for Blackjack. And now we're going to be trekking along to Little Harbor and Shark Harbor. This one is right on the beach. Shark Harbor, there is no hammock camping to be done at Shark Harbor unless you're going to bring your own stand, which in that case you probably wouldn't be watching this video anyway. So anyway, I would stay away from Shark Harbor. I did book Shark Harbor thinking it would be worth it to sleep on the ground just to have the beautiful private cove. But then that day while having lunch, I decided, no, it is not worth it to sleep on the ground. So I called and changed my reservation, which is easy because there's a lot of sites here and they don't typically book up in the winter and super early spring season. Now, Little Harbor, on the other hand, is very easy to hammock camp. You almost cannot go wrong over here except for 2 sites. 2 of the sites are not possible, and that's going to be 11 and 12, which are highly sought after sites for your ground dwellers. They have tiny shade structures, but not really big enough to hang off of. So I would probably stay away from those 2. Other than that, though, you can't go wrong with any other site. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of the other sites, but I'm not going to go over all of them because they are all super easy to hammock camp off of. Just a little detail on this map. If you were hiking in, you would hike in from down here, down between, I think, around 5 and 6. There's a trail that comes into Little Harbor, and then you would hike back out by site 1, and that's where this switchback system starts. And that's how you hike out of Little Harbor, just so you know how you come and go. Bathrooms are located all over the place, so you can't go wrong. If you want any kayaks, stay 2 nights. I did stay 2 nights. I did not know about the kayaks till I got there. There is no cell service up in Little Harbor, and so I could not call to reserve a kayak later. But if you want to do that, stay a second night, reserve a kayak ahead of time, and you can go kayak around this harbor. It's really pretty. A lot of great little hiking trails up on the rocks and all around, so definitely explore. So anyway, let's get on to a couple of the pictures. Site 1, if you want lots of shade, definitely go for Site 1. It's got a huge palm tree right next to the shade structure, which shades the whole area. If you're going to go in the summer, I would definitely pick this one because the sun can definitely get hot from what I hear, although I went in the wintertime. You can get a lot of hammocks off of here, and I'll show you that later. This one, like I said, is right next to the trailhead leaving, so if that bothers you, then you might not want to, and you want to pick a more remote site. Site 5 is where I stayed the first night I stayed here. I stayed here 2 nights, like I said, and 5 was my first night. This shows you how you can hang off of the shade structure. I just went side to side, put my table right in between so I can step up on the table and into my hammock. And I could also have breakfast sitting in bed, put my coffee and my stove and everything right here. I did set up a tarp at night just for privacy, and that worked, although I probably didn't need it. So, but I just tied that off to my table here. Now next door at Site 6 were my neighbors, and they had a lot of hammocks. They had them stringing up on the sides on each corner and one down the middle like my own. They put tables underneath each of their hammocks so they could step up into their hammock, and they really seemed to like that site. I will say they sounded like they were a little bit cold because they didn't have underquilts, but hey, you know, it's up to you what you do. So anyway, this is how you would hang multiple hammocks at a shade structure. Now Site 10 was my second night, and this is my favorite campsite at Little Harbor. Now these are what the shade structures look like at 10, 11, and 12. Now 10 is possible because it has this tree over here. I did not hang on the shade structure itself. I hung from the shade structure to the tree, which gave me a long enough spanse with an ocean view to die for. Path really close by the ocean, not close to the bathrooms though, so if that's important, I wouldn't stay here. There's also some holes that somebody put in the top of the shade structure, so I guess you could hang diagonally directly under the shade structure, but that's a bummer. They messed up the structure like that. As of a couple of weeks ago, nobody had put holes into 11 or 12, and I wouldn't recommend adding them either. So anyway, that is Little Harbor. Oh, I did add one extra one. This is Site 14, and I want to go back to that map for a second to show you why this section is cool. So let's go back. 14 is over here off by itself, and this is a great group hang site. You just take this road down here, and they have shade structures hidden away. So if you want to have a whole hammock group hang, you can congregate in the middle of all of the shade structures, yet retreat off to your own shade structure, which can fit probably about 5 per shade structure. Now this one over here is a little bit off to itself, but still off on this road. But 14A, B, C, and D are actually in a circle, and it'd be a great for a hammock hanging get together. So that's why I took a picture of this one. So that gives you a little bit better view and understanding on why I thought this was a great site. Okay, now we are hiking over to Two Harbors, which also is super easy to hang at. A lot of great sites and more to come. There was a lot of construction going on at the time when I was there, and they were creating more shade structures, which are super easy to hang off of. So I feel that pretty soon most of these sites will be hammock ready. But as of when I went, 6, 7, 8, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36 were the ones that were hammock ready. This whole section over here off to the left is not. There are no shade structures over there, and there are a couple up in the middle that aren't, and most of the ones close by the water are also not hammock compatible. So anyway, let's take a look at the details. You are going to hike in right here off to the left and go past 12. That is how you get into the site. If you want to get to the beach, they have access down all of these side roads to go to this beach over here. This Bahia Azul group site is a site that you can rent for a huge group. They don't do it per person, so It's a little expensive, but a nice private spot if you have a lot of people going. And I didn't walk in there, but it looked like there were a lot of trees. So might be something you want to look into if you have a huge group going. Let's move on to the first site. So 6. 6 is closer to the water, so if that's important to you, maybe this is a site that you want to look at. It has these 2 trees, which are not the best trees. But like I said, if it's super important to you and you feel this is workable, I felt it was workable, then you could stay here. 12 is where I did stay, and this is way at the top of the hill. It is technically just this spot right here with a small shade structure, which you could hang off of, but it has a little pathway that goes to a tree alcove, which I did hang in, and this is my favorite spot at Two Harbors. It has a great view, as you can see here. This is me inside the tree alcove, and this is where I hung my hammock. Great view of the water. It does have a location by the main road, but I was in there at winter time, so I pretty much had this whole campground to myself. Amazingly enough, there were a few people down by the water, but overall the campground was empty. 30 is also notable. It has the best view, hands down, on this whole entire campsite, and you can fit a ton of hammocks on this shade structure, which is huge. Now, privacy, 0. It is by the bathrooms, it is by the main road, there are no trees to block it, but view is number 1 in this location. There are a couple other ones, 31, 32, they're back behind. They also have great views. They would also be nice locations. Oops, that was it for Two Harbors, but I do want to make some notes about some of the other ones. So let's go back to the map. So I stayed at 12. It was up at the top with a small shade structure. 14 and 15 are also small shade structures, but doable. 30 is the one with the amazing view, and 31 and 32 also have pretty good views, but not quite as good as 30. Let's see, what else? 33 through 36. Right here, there's a shade structure in between the two, so you could use it for either site. 22 through 28, that is down back here. They have small shade structures, the same size as mine on 12. So not huge, but definitely okay for a hammock. Just going to be a little bit tight. 16 is also a pretty good view. That's going to be down here. Really large shade structure on that one. 17 and 19, these ones, the shade structures were under construction when I was there, but it looked like they were working pretty quickly on them, so I would suspect they'd be done pretty soon. 18 is another really large shade structure, and with a pretty good view and close by the water spigot that's right here, so that is really helpful because every time I needed water, I needed to truck it all the way over here to the bathrooms, which are right here, which was kind of inconvenient. But if water is important, then you could, stay by 18, make friends because everybody else is going to go there too. 7 looked like it was probably going to have a shade structure soon. Where's my 7? Oh, here it is. It was under construction, and so I would say 7 is on my list, but it was under construction, so I think they had the poles up when I went by. 6 is the one that I showed the photo of with the 2 little trees, so if you want something super close to the beach, that one works. And 8, you can probably use the trees in this grove right here. They're kind of low, scrubby trees, kind of like on site 6. but I would consider it possible, and it's nice hidden away in this little valley. Doesn't have a view, but it's definitely hidden away. And that's it. So that is Two Harbors. And now we're going to make our way over to Parsons Landing, which is our last stop. And I will say this is the one I was most worried about for good reason. All of these campsites, all 8 of them, are on the beach. There is no hammock camping to be done on this beach currently, although I would say I think that the Catalina Island should put shade structures on these. It would be nice to give something for hammock campers to use as well. But anyway, I was on site 1 and I brought my ground system in order to stay on this site. Which, before we head over to that, I'll just show you, you hike in right here, down at the bottom center, and then you're going to hike out over here off to the right, and then you're going to hike back out this way. If you're going to Starlight Beach, you're going to hike back up this trail, and it's going to go off to the left. So just a little bit of directional for you. 1 is the most secluded. It is the highest sought after site for people sleeping in a tent. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 are all on the main area. 2 is also kind of by itself. All the rest are fairly close together, although I see that 8 is pretty sought after as well. But number 1 is all by itself, and most people try and go for number 1. Here's what number 1 looks like. This is the site that I had, and it was my only night sleeping on the ground. It was the worst night of my life. I felt like I had the system down pretty good, getting my tarp down and my hammock hung underneath it. I had a ground sheet, I had a blow-up pad, but the winds are bad here. They are really strong, and so I felt like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and my house was about to blow away. And it did. At about 1 in the morning, one of my tie downs came free because evidently I just don't know how to tie around a rock correctly. So anyway, if you end up doing this, definitely make sure that you are tied down super well because those winds are very strong. But anyway, I will never do this again. I woke up super early in the morning to do my next hike because there was no reason to relax. It was not relaxing for me. I almost wished halfway out hiking that I had taken all of my stuff with me. I only brought a day pack on this hike because I knew I was coming back, but I wish I would have taken all my stuff and just hiked out in the middle of nowhere and set up camp in some trees or something. But I didn't, so I had to come all the way back here. I did see a site, I will say, close by the campground on Parsons Trail by a firebox that looked really good for hanging hammocks. Now, you're not supposed to hang hammocks off of the campsites, but it was super tempting. Instead of hammock camping in those trees, which I was planning to do as soon as I passed it, I decided to stay at the campsite and instead go up top to where the main facilities were. The bathroom, the lockers, and this shade structure back here was now going to be my home for the next night. And it has an amazing view. It's close by everything. Instead of storing my stuff in the storage box, I just kept it in my locker. You purchase one of these lockers to get your water and your firewood anyway, so I just shoved my backpack and all my food inside the locker so that it would be safe for the night, not blow away and not have anything eat it. So here's me hung up on the shade structure. I would say you could fit at least 4, 2 if you hang them up this way. Anyways, beautiful views. And you just step up on the bench. That's how I got into my hammock, because shade structures make you a little bit high up on the, higher from the ground than I normally would hang. Everybody was really nice and did not mind that I took up the shade structure. Although I would not do this in the summertime, being that it's the only shade structure, and some people just come here for a day hike, and this is where they take their break and have their lunch, so that would be kind of mean. But for winter, I think it's totally fine, which makes it my favorite and only campsite at Parsons Landing. So definitely be mindful of where you're going to camp at this particular location, because there isn't a lot of options. So anyway, this is the only tough one. Like I said, it's windy, so I put up a windbreak with my tarp. I didn't fully cover myself though, because I wanted to look at the stars. But I was able to get it nice and tight, and that kept me pretty warm all night long. So I think that's it. Like I said, totally possible to hammock camp the Trans Catalina Trail. It is a beautiful trail. I would recommend it to anybody, and definitely take your time. Don't do it so fast. Put in an extra day. Here's my extra day right here, where I spent in Little Harbor and just laid in my hammock and read a book and explored the area all day. And then of course I did that extra hike over at Parsons and added that extra day as well. Which is a great hike with beautiful views. So anyway, have fun. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'm happy to help. Happy to look through my photos. If I did not post on here exactly what you wanted to see, maybe I have something else that'll show it. So anyway, happy trails. I'll talk to you again soon.